Toronto had always been a bustling city, filled with life, culture and drama. Recently, the drama had reached a fever pitch. The population of men in the town had inexplicably reduced. There were rumors of an exodus to Silicon Valley, an alien abduction conspiracy, and even whispers about a secret society hoarding men underground. Whatever the cause, the effect was clear. The women of Toronto were in an uproar. Picture this. A woman would be seen walking down the street with a man, only to be ambushed by another woman with a hunger in her eyes, usually reserved for Black Friday sales. This led to spectacular scenes on the streets, in restaurants, and even in grocery stores, where women would engage in tug-of-war matches over bewildered men. The phrase, "finders keepers," took on a whole new meaning. Sophia, a lawyer with a passion for sarcasm, found herself in the middle of one such situation. She had just met a charming man named Derek at a coffee shop. They were deep in conversation about the absurdity of reality TV when a woman leapt from behind the muffin display, screaming, "That's my man!" Sophia barely had time to react before the woman pounced on her, grabbing Derek's other arm. Derek looked like a deer caught in headlights, his eyes flicking between the two women as they pulled him back and forth like a robe. "Seriously? Is this how it's going to be now?" Sophia yelled, trying to keep her grip. "Let go of him," the other woman demanded. "I saw him first." "This isn't a sale at Nordstrom," Sophia shouted back. "He's a human being." Derek, sensing an opportunity, wrenched free and dashed for the door, leaving the two women staring at each other in stunned silence. As the chaos reached its peak, whispers of a solution began to circulate. In a quiet corner of Toronto, a mysterious shop had opened. The sign above the door read, "Madame Zelena's Emporium," with the slogan, "Husbands for Sale." The shopkeeper, Madame Zelena, was a witch with a flair for the dramatic. She had frizzy hair that looked like it had been styled by an electric socket, and a wardrobe that seemed inspired by the circus. Her shop was filled with the aroma of exotic herbs, and strange trinkets lined the shelves. Sophia, always skeptical, decided to investigate. She pushed the door open, triggering a bell that sounded like a creepy laughter. "Welcome, dearie!" Madame Zelena greeted her with a smirk. "Looking for a husband, are we?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What makes you think I need a husband?" "Everyone does," Madame Zelena replied, her eyes twinkling. "Especially these days." Sophia looked around the shop, feeling curious. "So, how does this work?" Madame Zelena clapped her hands, and a scroll appeared in her grasp. "Fill out this questionnaire and I'll create the perfect husband for you. Tall, short, muscular, intellectual, you name it." Sophia looked cautiously at the scroll but accepted it. She completed it, returned it, and observed as Madame Zelena started chanting. Smoke filled the room, and with a flash, a man appeared. He was exactly as Sophia had described, tall, dark, and handsome, with a smile that could melt butter. "Meet your new husband," Madame Zelena proudly announced. Sophia blinked twice with excitement, happily paid Madame Zelena, and proudly took her dream husband home. Word of Madame Zelena's shop spread like wildfire. Soon the line outside her door stretched for blocks. Women from all walks of life flocked to the Emporium, each with their own list of desired traits. Jasmine, a fiercely independent entrepreneur, was next in line. She had always prided herself on not needing a man, but the prospect of a custom-made husband was too intriguing to pass up. "Let's see," she whispered to herself whilst filling out the questionnaire. "He should be intelligent but not too pretentious, funny but not a clown, and he must absolutely love dogs." Madame Zelena nodded, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air. With a puff of smoke, a man materialized, holding a bouquet of roses and a puppy. "Is this some kind of joke?" Jasmine asked, eyeing the puppy. Madame Zelena annoyingly said, "But you said he must love dogs." Jasmine sighed but took the man's hand. "What's your name?" "Whatever you want it to be," he replied with a dazzling smile. Jasmine couldn't help but laugh. "All right, Romeo, let's see how this goes." As more women bought husbands, the streets of Toronto began to change. Men were no longer being snatched, they were being showcased like trophies. Women boasted about their custom-made husbands at restaurants, in yoga classes, and even at PTA meetings. It wasn't long before women began to want more. One husband was great, but 2 were better, and 12 was a dream. Madame Zelena, never one to miss a business opportunity, happily obliged. Sophia returned to the shop, this time with a list. "All right, I need a husband who can cook, another who can clean, one who is great with kids, and one who can build bamboo furniture without losing his temper." Madame Zelena's eyes widened. "You want 4 husbands?" Sophia smiled. "Why stop there? Make it 12. I want a husband for every occasion." Madame Zelena laughed, her laughter echoing through the shop. "As you wish." With a flurry of smoke and spells, Sophia's house was soon filled with a dozen men, each perfectly tailored to her specifications. At first it was paradise. Breakfast in bed, a spotless home, and endless entertainment. But it wasn't long before the excitement wore off. Managing 12 husbands was no small task. They fought over who got to sit next to Sophia at dinner, who was the best cook, and who was the most handsome. "All right, everyone, calm down," Sophia shouted one evening, losing her patience. "This isn't a competition." "But it is," one of the husbands muttered. Sophia sighed, rubbing her temples. "I need a vacation." As the demand for husbands grew, so did the complaints. Women were finding themselves overwhelmed, and soon a husband exchange program was born. Madame Zelena, the business witchwoman, happily facilitated the trades. Sophia decided to participate. She had grown tired of husband number 7, who insisted on singing opera at all hours. She walked into Madame Zelena's shop with him. "I'd like to exchange him for one who doesn't sing," she said. Madame Zelena nodded. "Of course, dearie, step right this way." The exchange process was quick and exciting. Sophia left with a new husband, a quiet man who enjoyed reading and had a talent for baking. As the weeks passed, the exchange program became more popular. Women traded husbands like iPhone chargers, seeking the perfect balance for their households. Despite the influx of custom-made husbands, the demand continued to outpace the supply. Madame Zelena found herself working around the clock, her magic stretched to its limits. One day, Sophia returned to the shop, only to find it closed. A sign on the door read, "Out of husbands, back in 3 days." Sophia groaned. Just my luck. With the shop temporarily closed, the streets of Toronto grew tense once more. Women eyed each other's husbands with envy, and old habits began to resurface. Sophia decided to host a support group for overwhelmed women. They gathered in her living room, sharing stories and venting their frustrations. "This is ridiculous," Jasmine said, sipping her wine. "I never thought I'd miss the days when men were scarce." "Tell me about it," another woman chimed in. "I have a husband who thinks he's a stand-up comedian. It's exhausting." Sophia nodded in agreement. "Maybe we need to rethink this whole husband thing." Madame Zelena eventually reopened her shop, but with new rules. Women were limited to 1 husband each, and the exchange program ceased. The witch had realized that while her magic could create husbands, it couldn't create happiness. Sophia, Jasmine, and the other women adapted to the new rules. They learned to appreciate the husbands they had and found creative ways to keep their relationships interesting. Sophia even started dating Derek, the man she had met at the coffee shop. They laughed about their initial encounter and bonded over their shared experiences. As for Madame Zelena, she continued to run her shop, but with a new focus on relationship counseling and self-improvement. Her business thrived, and the women of Toronto found a new sense of balance. In the end, the city returned to a semblance of normalcy, albeit with a few more magical husbands than before. The women had learned that while a custom-made husband could be convenient, true happiness came from within.